think we start.
Yeah, start.
After all.
So, Markus Richter, radio presenter, go-to guy for your radio public for everything having to do with video games. There we go. But if I remember correctly, you're also a little bit political, aren't you? You get into that whole thing too, don't you?
But that is because I'm also not only about video games, but all things technical.
Technical.
And then you have the politics, like internet surveillance and like copyright
That stuff.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, all the things that I know nothing about because A, I'm not a gamer, B, games have nothing to do with what I do. So, you know.
But you do use the internet.
Oh, I use the internet a lot, yeah. I just got a little iPad and I'm always blown away by how much I actually use it in the kitchen.
And that's where you come in, Troy. And you're the guy who owns a place which is called
Rosa Caleta.
Rosa Caleta. And you're a Berliner, but you're from Jamaica?
Genau.
And I only know that because your restaurant it's Jamaican and something else. And you make a mean cupcake.
Jamaican and European. And thank you for using the word cupcake because everyone always goes muffins. Just because it's like, you know, in this little form. They always say a muffin, a cupcake. Thank you for that. Yeah.
You're almost welcome and I really enjoy your cupcakes. In fact, I enjoy your cupcakes so much that one of these vices might be used for your cupcakes.
Okay, let's see if we
Let's see if you pick gluttony or maybe something else.
We're gonna go with voila. And guess what I got? Gluttony.
Berlin and gluttony.
Well,
is Berlin gluttonous? I think so.
It's certainly in the excess.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily in your traditional sense, but for everything having to do with nightlife and party and doing nothing, Berlin is gluttonous. I mean, come on, how many bars per square meters do we have in Berlin? How many restaurants per square meters do we have in Berlin? How many discotheques per square meter?
But the question is, I think, is it a vice? You know, because the vice is like it's a deadly sin. It's not good for you. And I imagine that like being the capital of partyness also has its upsides.
It definitely has its upsides. I think it's the downsides that really, you know, are what one doesn't talk about. Because so many people come here and they fall into nightlife, they party, and get nothing done. But I mean, Berlin's always been the city that people sort of partake. They're here. They want to be a part of it. And what I've noticed is before, it used to be you would go out and you would meet a lot of people, a lot of different types of people. And I find that in the last 10 years or so, when I go out, I feel like an old man. I feel completely irrelevant because what you are part of doesn't interest you anymore. For instance, I'd be a glutton for complaining. I go out and I look around and I go, oh, these goddamn kids of today, they don't do this, they don't do that, they don't do the other thing. But they're having a great time. I just don't understand it. And I become the complainer, not because they're doing too much, it's because I don't understand it. I think part of it is that I work a lot to really concentrate on getting this restaurant together and making it a success. In Berlin, you can't do one or the other. I mean, some people do, but I can't do it. I can't go out and party excessively and then get up the next day and stand, you know, at my oven and go, what am I gonna bake today? Usually nothing comes, you know. So it's a choice. It's a choice.
But do you think that it'll stay that way? Because if you recently there was like a map of how much do you have to pay in several suburbs or quarters, and it was really, really much. It's a kind of gluttony too. I mean,
it's a gluttony on the part of the people who are renting apartments in Berlin.
But it's greed on the side of the renters, but on the rentees. I mean, that really, Berlin could, in the next 7 years, Berlin could become a nest of gluttony because inside the city, there are only people who can afford the big rent.
Yeah.
So that are also the people that don't have to work, so they party all the time. Then we have a city full of
just
gluttons.
But I hope that doesn't happen to Berlin. I think you also have too many people living in the city who are aware of what's going on and what the city could be like. So I think we need a return to the old Berlin culture.
Do you think you will, in 7 years, you will still be at the Rosa Caleta?
I think the Rosa Caleta will still be there. Whether or not I'm there is another thing. I think you have to evolve.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look back to almost 21 years ago when I came to Berlin and where I am now, I mean, huge difference in a lot of different ways. I love the city. All the people I love live here. So it depends a little bit on what happens with them. You know? What about yourself?
Like I'm a freelancer, so I go where the work is. I can imagine myself living any place else than Berlin. So I really like Berlin because of the opportunities, because of the people, and because really I'm settled.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens. It's like, you know, I when I first came to Berlin, I landed in Kreuzberg, and it never occurred to me to go anyplace else.
That's interesting because the first apartment I had, it was in Friedrichshain, and I moved throughout the whole city, and I ended up in Friedrichshain again.
Oh, okay. No.
So maybe one day I'll cross the bridge.
Yeah, I crossed the bridge once.
Okay.
And now I'm back on